Thanks for joining us. If you're here in Vernon or the Okanagan, it's a snowy evening, so kind of a nice activity to do indoors. I'll just do a quick introduction here of Mark, and then I'll let him take it away. Um, First of all, my name's Victoria Verge. I'm the curator here at the Vernon Public Art Gallery, and it's my pleasure to welcome you this evening for an intimate talk with Mark, joining us from his studio in Telkwa. Um, so his exhibition, Populated, is on display currently at the Vernon Public Art Gallery until December 24th. So if you're around, please come check it out. Mark's practice extends across painting, music, and lutherie, and from his studio in Telkwa, northern British Columbia, he draws upon inspiration from the natural environment and its ongoing dialogue with human experience. His expressive paintings emerge through a process of constant change, adaptation, and improvisation, which I think he'll be talking about quite a bit this evening, reflecting on the ways in which both people and places continually shape and respond to one another. Just admitting people as we go here. Mark completed his BFA with honors in visual arts at the University of Windsor in 1992, and his multifaceted creative practice continues to explore how sound, mark making, and material gesture intersect as intuitive forms of communication. So for those of you who'd like to learn more about Mark's practice, I'm going to link to his e-catalog in the chat bar below, so you'll be able to find it there afterwards. This will include additional images and curatorial text, expanding on the ideas we'll be discussing this evening. So tonight's talk will run us around 45 minutes, followed by a 15-minute Q&A period. So try to hold your questions until that time. At that time, you can either type them in the chat and I can relay them to Mark. If you don't want to unmute yourself, we can do it that way. Or if you would like to join us, you can unmute and even share your video and we can see your beautiful faces. And we can have a little conversation dialogue at the end here. But while Mark's talking, please remain muted just so we can ensure clear audio throughout. That's it for me. I'm going to hand it over to who everyone's here to listen to. So thanks so much.
Thanks, Victoria.
Anytime.
Hello, everyone. There's 5 of us here now. Oh, good. I can see a wave. That's great. We can't do the audio, but I can see waves. So we do stuff. We'll act as we go along. Just have a message that just came up here. Oh, that's the link. I'm just going to close that link. You there? Is everybody there? Yeah? Okay. So it's the talk is about improvisation and of course, being a musician and a self-taught musician, I think I've had to improvise quite a bit, you know. But with that, you know, improvising from a place that kind of is more emotive and can kind of capture the essence of maybe the song that I'm performing or whatever else. But it's that's my first, the first foray, I guess, into improvisation is first as a musician. And then after that, it was when I got into a visual arts program. Now I'll explain this a little bit more in depth as I go, but and then I'm going to do a little studio tour here too. I'll take you around and we'll look at some of the stuff that I have, some of the tools that I use. My process is very much additive and subtractive. It's equally undoing as it is doing. And I think that that's become a very big part of my painting practice. But we'll do a studio tour here in a second. I have 2 studios. I have one at home where I paint very, very large works, like 12 by 8 feet, which I did for this gallery, for the Vernon Public Art Gallery. But and then I have this studio here in town, which is right down Main Street. And I'll show you. I can see all the lights, Christmas lights down Main Street. It's like Bedford Falls in front of me, right down. And you'll see us. I'll show you the picture here. But it's funny, as I was thinking, do I have enough to speak about tonight? Because I don't think I've ever spoke for 45 minutes in a row at any given time ever in my life, you know. But I found this little piece of information that I passed along to my students in one of my workshops. And that workshop was making your mark from abstract to landscape. And I just found it like 10 minutes ago. I thought this is a perfect way to start the talk off because we're talking about improvisation. And in that workshop, I would have people um, using different mark making in an abstract piece to pull out a landscape. That's aside from the point right now. The idea is that uh, I did a query on why, because people, when you think about a tree, let's just use a tree for example. When people think about a tree, they have an idea in their head. They're gonna draw a tree, and they know exactly how they've seen many trees, and we go to this kind of place rather than drawing the shapes and the forms and everything that affects the tree. That's the big thing. Everything that affects the tree, and the tree has to improvise to grow to all its external stimuli, I guess. So with that, I just found this, and I delivered this in one of my workshops, and I thought it was very fitting for what we're talking about right now. So why don't tree branches grow straight up? So this is from the editors of Earth Sky. Tree branches will grow to give the most leaves, the most light, even if that means growing sideways. Trees need light for polysynthesis, which is how green plants generate their energy. There are other factors that affect the way branches grow as well. Gravity pulls the branch downward, and the branch growth is affected by the wind. Part of the trade-off any tree has to make is between gathering light, staying stable in the wind, and succeeding against nearby competitors. So when branches grow crookedly, that's part of a tree's overall survival strategy. So trees have sensors that detect light and gravity from the moment the tree begins its life. It knows which end is up. Trees will generally attempt to grow toward the light and away from the gravitational pull. But as trees get older, its branches tend to grow more outward than upwards. That's so the tree can cast a wider net to catch the light on the sun. So the things I try to do and incorporate in my art making, music making, and painting is those things that are affecting the subject, not necessarily the subject, not the tree that's growing straight or crooked, but I'm trying to consider those things that are affecting what I'm seeing. If I go through the walk in the woods, which I used to do quite a bit more, but not lately, just been so busy. But there's Telkwa River right near me, beautiful little walk, and there's trees that well, it's just full. It's just a very, very thick bush. And as I'm walking, you take in the leaves, you take in the branches, you take in the straight trunks, you take in the crooked. It's all there. There's all this stimulation, right? So I try and capture that rather than a representational view of that. So anyway, enough of that. I'll take you and all those things that are affecting the subject. I think that's a real important thing in my practice. And I'm just going to go take you on a quick tour of my studio. This is the Central Park building. It used to be the judges. Used to be the courthouse below me. It is now a dance studio. I am right now sitting in what would have been 100 years ago, the judge's living room, and it looks right down Main Street. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful place. If you're ever coming through Smithers, I would love for you to come by, and I would be happy to show you my studio. So here we go. This is where I teach music and art. I have art students. So you're going to see that there's works in progress. All my different instruments that I teach down there somewhere. I don't know if you can see that. Some of the figurative work that I've been doing. I don't know if you can see. There we go. Some abstract figurative works that I've been doing. Some more representational figurative works. And I'm just going to show you down the hall real quick. There's a studio down there. These are all studios. And there's Ben. Hi, Ben. He's teaching guitar. And back into my studio, Studio 14. When you come through, that's us, the Zoom meeting in progress right there. So yeah, back to the works. So yeah, getting to that idea of capturing something, the essence of something, I guess. This is a painting I did of. I guess I was inspired by some of the darker paintings. I did a series for New Powell Fine Art in London, and it was called Archetypes and Allegory, and it used a lot of uh, tropes and Renaissance tropes and subject matter. So that was kind of from that, and but just trying to capture in that painting, just trying to capture something that was a little bit more without getting representational, just trying to capture that mood of what these paintings, um, using mark making and color, I guess, what these paintings would have, by Bruegels, by Bosch. Anyhow, so, and there's some figurative work there. This is more in keeping with the Populated series over here, which is the mark making. I'm going to talk about that. You can see there's varied mark making, which is a very difficult thing, as I'm sure you all know. We tend to get into a habit of our mark making. And it seems like every canvas that I do has at least a few of the exact same marks right across all of them, just because there's this habit that I'm always trying to, well, I'm mindful of it. As soon as I put that mark down, I'm mindful of it. I'm not sure if you are in your practice. I bet you are, but and I'm always trying to break that habit, trying to recreate something. And there's some figurative work that I'm working on right now, and some more representational stuff. And a Halloween painting I did somewhere in there. Talking about subtractive. Oh, I'm going to give you just a couple little studio things that I've discovered along the way, if I could. Just a way to organize your acrylic paint. I'm always looking for my paint in that pile down there. Lanyard to if you're working on something, just put that like that, and you can move it around anywhere. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing there. And the things that I use: squeegees, methyl hydrate on acrylic to remove methyl hydrate and remove acrylic paint, and my desk, and my view of Smithers. There's a ski hill over there you can't see right now, but that's where I work from. I'm not sure if you captured all that in that little video, because it was all I see is a little screen. I hope that it was all in there. So just to talk really quick, why visual arts, why painting, and lutherie. Built guitars, shipped them all over the world. Over 400 guitars now, with a few other people. Had a business called Reiko Resophonics. You can do a tour of that if you want. You can just do a Google search, you'll find it, Reiko Resophonics. But the idea of having different practices, painting, lutherie, and music, the way the two especially relate to each other, music and painting, and the language that's shared between the two of them is just, it's almost like I'd never seen that there's a division between the two. I've always just felt it's expression first. So, and each informs the other. Like the music, like my lines are very musical, and my music is very painterly sometimes. It's, I think, in textures when I'm making music, and I think in when I'm painting, I think in well, not completely, but the result is that it has kind of the lines have a very lyrical and melodic kind of flow to them, and that's the music coming out in my painting, and that, anyhow, they're very reciprocal. They inform each other. I consider myself an expressionist or sensualist first, rather than a formalist, and I think that that's important for me, because I like to work immediacy, and when I'm immediately, like quickly, and to me that's when I can capture the most about a subject is when I'm working quickly, Um, so forever student, yeah. So I also consider myself forever a student. I favor exploration over mastery. So that's a big thing. Um, and some of the themes you'll see in my work, I'm just going to go off script here, on script. Some themes that you'll see in my work is temporality, improvisation, and witness, connection and disconnection. So if I had to summarize that into one quick sentence, I would say that there's this an urgency to create rapidly in a changing world while reflecting on a relationship to it. That's really what inspires this kind of immediacy, because I feel like there's this, not pressure, but there's an urgency that I need to see what I'm, capture what I'm seeing, and it may not be the subject matter, but it's definitely the things that are um, affecting. Anyhow, so try to capture something. Sorry. So I'm inspired by humankind. Victoria touched on that, and the natural environment, and how we're continually adapting to the other's changing influence and needs. And that seems to be escalating all the time. I also think that there's this quote by this is a little bit off, but by a story about Hans Hofmann critiquing Jackson Pollock and saying, Jackson, you should work from nature. And Jackson Pollock says, I am nature. And I think that that's just absolutely brilliant. And I think that that's the disconnect for me, is like there is no separation. We are nature. And I think that that's, so I'm moved by that all the time, and I have been since a child. So, and the strange stuff we do with our nest. So I'm inspired by humankind, natural environment. So I was going to show you a piece here while we're at it. So with that, this is a piece that's on. Hope you can see. You can see that it's called "We Were Not Alone in the Garden," and that's it speaks to me about. When I was painting this, I was thinking about the rhetoric about becoming the 51st state, and interests in our natural resources and all that. So, and I thought, we were not alone in the garden. I was thinking about Garden of Eden. I was thinking about, on a side note, I'm very much inspired by Cecily Brown. I think she's the greatest living painter. But I like the idea that we are in this. There's figures in this kind of abstract piece. There's also kind of foliage and that kind of thing. So, but the figures are kind of hidden a little bit. So to me, that speaks like from a voyeuristic perspective. So I tried to capture this idea that it's beautiful, but it's also vulnerable. So we're not alone in the garden. So there's these, when you think about that kind of voyeuristic quality of this peaceful place, I was thinking about a garden, abundance, providence, borders, and lines on a map, and who owns what, and all that. Yeah, so that's that one. So back to the multidiscipline. I'm just gonna get rid of this. Yeah, stop sharing. So the multidiscipline, the guitars designed, built over 400 guitars worldwide. Our guitars are featured in Terry Burrow's 1001 Guitars to Dream Of, Playing Before You Die, an acoustic guitar magazine. As a musician, I've toured and recorded with award-winning musicians and producers using pedal steel, lap steel, electric guitars, or homemade instruments, which I'm going to show you one here shortly. But I sense like my position as a musician is to punctuate the narrative of the song. That's how I, and I can only do that I can't do that from a formal perspective, it seems. I have to do it kind of more of a reactive way, like when I start playing. And to be honest, if any of you are musicians, it's almost like the same piece changes from night to night when you perform it. Um, so it's my responsibility to be, not my responsibility, I mean, but to myself, I guess my responsibility to myself is to be able um, to move with that piece and that emotive um, moment that's happening in that music, and I need to be able to kind of move with that. So that's my first foray into that improvisation was as a musician. But as a visual artist, I went to apply to University of Windsor's classical program. I didn't play classical guitar, but I wanted to, increase my musicality and learn about music. Uh, I was declined not declined from the program. I could get in the program, but I had to get the formal stuff aside. Get the formal stuff first before they would let me in. I was a good musician, but I needed that formal side. Then I took some courses in visual arts department, and that was it. I mean, it was a very liberal visual arts department, and there I could explore music and visual arts, and I could put the two together. And at that time, that was a big thing, that kind of marriage of multimedia performances, that kind of thing. That was a big push at that time, and painting was kind of slowing down. Some say dead, but never. But I think it's yeah. So that was happening, and I got in with a bunch of musicians, and what we did is every Monday night we'd get together, musicians slash artists from the school, and we would just start improvising. We would just really play and start making sounds. We didn't get together and just say, it's in this key. We just dropped all that formal structure, and I mean, you'd hear somebody drop something on the floor over here, for example, but and you might react to that. It might be an accident, but you might react to that. And then when you have a group of people, you suddenly have to react, and you have to keep big ears, and you have to really listen, and you have to pay attention. You have to be in that moment, and that's where I really shoot to be in my painting practice, as I tend to go into in my music practice. And the only way I can do that is to just kind of put up these in painting, is to put up these things that I recognize this is habit. Again, as I was talking about over here, and try and stop that habit, like try and break that habit, and then just explore, and really, really play, because that's where I learn the most. Anyhow, so in the visual arts course, playing with these guys, it was a really, really good study on reacting to other people's influence, um, and then trying to come up with something. Sometimes it would be just absolute noise, and we had to be okay with that. I think that's the same in painting. Like sometimes it's going to be absolute trash. But you know what? As painters or artists, you could always hit delete if you're recording something. You can always use white paint over top of a canvas. It doesn't have to be what we thought it should be. As a matter of fact, one of the pieces over here, I had a complete image in my head exactly what I wanted to do with this piece, and it did not go that way. It just took me elsewhere, and I have to be okay with that. I think you really have to be okay with that. So maybe that's part of improvisation, is you have to just accept that it's not going to be, especially if you're with a group of musicians, you have to accept that it may not be what you're hearing, and you have to be reactive. I talk about that a little bit. I'm probably going to touch on this in a minute here, but the idea that my position when I'm painting is to, and creating, for that matter, is to be a witness, like to put something out there, but get into a place where it's no longer mine, where it feels like it's influenced by something broader than myself. And I won't say greater, because that has all kinds of implications, right? But something broader than myself. And I think that we really shoot for that moment in our creative practice, to be connected to that moment where we might be connected to something that's broader than our personal histories. So that's a good example. When I'm improvising with people, it's like I'm being influenced by their personal histories on that day, and so that was a really good study and in improvisation, um, which I think I've taken into my art and just allowed for that exploration and not being too attached to anything. Um, I'm just going to go here. Yeah. Yeah. So after graduating from, actually, my grad show for the visual arts program was a sound piece. It was because to me, sound is just as visual as visuals are sonic. It's um, again, they share the same language. I don't see a separation between the two. My grad show was four different length loops of a Gregorian chant that I decomposed and re-recorded using MIDI instruments, and then played them back. And they all played at different rates, so they were improvising. They were totally, well, they couldn't. They're not improvising, but they were totally making up a different composition every second. That composition would never be the same, but it was a wonderful composition. Like there's sometimes you can go in the middle of those four speakers, and it was you'd just be surrounded by cacophony, and then you at times it would be beautiful harmonies that you couldn't have thought of, and that's that exploration. On a quick side note, that exploration and those chances that happen are something lately in regards to AI. I think that we're outsourcing chance and that play and exploration. We're outsourcing that. Sure, we get products that are really, really cool, but I think we end up with something that's missing, something that's greater. It could have been greater or something, or maybe we won't know what we're missing for another 10 or 15 years or decades, but I think we have to be careful about those kinds of things, like, because that to me is where like real discoveries happen, is exploration and experimentation. Um, so I'm going to talk about the Populated series here a little bit. I'm just going to pull up a couple pieces from that. So this, is it there? We're good? Yeah. So the Populated series started at the onset of a global pandemic. As things were shutting down, my marks changed. My mind was distracted by the magnitude of what we collectively had in front of us, but I still went into the studio. Up until that time, I was working large scale. At that time, large scale was like 4 feet by 4 feet. It wasn't huge as like the Vernon pieces are right now, but I would go in. This piece is called Salvajes, by the way, savages or wild. And my mark making changed. I just started to recognize. Well, first of all, I went in and I was removed. I wasn't there. I was in the studio. I was making marks, but I wasn't there. I was just absent. But then I started to look at the marks that I was making, and I thought, well, these are really interesting. They really speak to me. They were quite a bit smaller. They weren't like huge gestures. They were quite a bit smaller than what I typically make, or was typically making at that time. And I just really learned that they had this personality and this character about them. And from there, I just started to fill the canvas with a bunch of these marks. So that's Salvajes. And they were unintentional. Like these marks were trying to figure out how to get to the next piece here. Yeah. So it was unintentional. Those pieces were unintentional. Or those marks were unintentional. And I was witnessing them. I think that was an important part. That brought me back to when I was improvising in music. It was, when you're playing music and you're in that moment, you're hearing it, but you feel that you're removed from it. You feel that it's happening. You can almost appreciate it, like from an audience perspective. Um, I think, yeah. So you just kind of you're no longer the author of it. It seems like you're just kind of, and that's where I was when I was making those marks for the Populated series. When I was making the paintings for what became the Populated series, I tried to really, I learned that I needed not to be there in order to do, or not to bring my intention there fully in order to do the work that I wanted to do the expressive works that I wanted to do. I needed to find a way to kind of remove myself from the process and allow it to happen a little bit, you know. So on another note, I don't know how to go through the, oh, here we go. Yeah, that's, sorry. Yeah. So the workshops that I teach are typically, or not typically, that they're two of the workshops I teach. One is called Art Without Intent. And the other is called Make Your Mark. And Art Without Intent, I wrote this little blurb that I share on all my workshops now. And just about how I don't think art, well, I'll read it verbatim. And I wrote this, I think, in 2019. Art is what defines us and binds us outside of gallery walls. It is sometimes beautiful and sometimes perverse. Occasionally, if we're lucky, we can capture its likeness on canvas or on paper. And I think that that's, you know, I think we're all moved by the events in a day that, you know, whether it's our family life, whether it's huge political issues or whether it's environmental things or whatever, we're all moved by that. And if our work can capture that, our reaction to that, I think that that's a good painting, or that's a good piece of music, or that's a great poem, or a wonderful dance, you know. So that's, again, I'll read it. Art is what defines us and binds us outside of gallery walls. Outside of gallery walls, it is sometimes beautiful and sometimes perverse, but it's ours, you know. Occasionally, if we are lucky, we can capture its likeness on canvas or on paper. And yeah, so the idea that our personal experiences and collected histories inform our work, whether you're trying to remove yourself from that attachment or speak directly to it. There's a great saying, I think everybody should have this in the back of their head, by John Cage, a great, he says, when you start working, everybody's in your studio. The past, your friends, enemies, the art world, and above all, your own ideas. They're all there. But as you continue painting, they start leaving one by one, and you are left completely alone. Then if you're lucky, even you leave. And that's where I want to get when I'm playing music. That's where I want to get when I'm painting, that, you know, maybe those things are influencing me, but without being too intentional about it, you know. The idea in the workshop is that if we suspend our intention and then allow for experimentation and play, we might connect to something that is broader, not greater, than our personal histories. I teach students to, we're getting on to 6:34 here. Man, I'm verbose, sorry. Yeah, well, maybe I'll just get into something else here. Sorry, where was I? Oh, just something. I think this is important because when I go into to start painting, so that I just kind of get rid of intentionality, I teach my students to prime the canvas with color and approach it with the idea that they're only priming the canvas. Only priming the canvas. As soon as they do that, they've suspended all intention and they're priming the canvas, and then they start to react to the marks that they're making in just priming the canvas, right? And I think that that's a great way to kind of approach our work, that it's not, you know, it's not that precious, or, you know. So I'm going to jump ahead of a bunch of stuff here. Yeah. So I'm going to touch on this instrument that I built here, because we're almost at the, yeah. So one of the bands that I play with I play with a few many bands, probably 5 or 6 bands, I guess. And they're all different. Like there's a country band, there's an Argentinian band that does dirges and some dance music and cumbia. And Mark Perry, he's a great singer-songwriter, Northern Canadian stuff. It's very important that and elevate those songs somehow, punctuate those songs somehow. And there's a band that I play with called Los Gringos Salvajes. And another band, it's a noise band. It's called 1,000 Cuts. So in that group, we really, I'll just cut straight to it. I designed an instrument so when I talking about intentionality, when I started playing with that group, I mean, we made the group. So when we started that group, I was playing a lap steel guitar, which was tuned to a C6, you know. So every time I would sit down on that guitar, I would have this kind of, I would come up with lines that I already knew how to play, and it was just, it was so predictable every time I would sit on it. You know, I might do it in a different position, but it was always the same thing. So with that, I designed an instrument for myself because I'm a luthier, although there's no luthier qualities in this. I mean, this is a plank that I just screwed a bunch of things together and started making sound with and put pickups on it. Do we have time for me to play that a little bit? Okay, so I'll do that. So, and I'll explain how it kind of works. Maybe I won't do a musical performance, but I'll just show you what. I'll show you why it's so weird, why it's so unique. So in a lap steel guitar, which I typically play, it has a fixed scale length, which means you can just approach it every time and play the same thing. It has a fixed scale length. It has you play it with picks and a bar, a steel bar. So any instrument, well, not all instruments, but anyhow, this is it. And what I did is I made it so that every string has a different. I can change the scale length on every. I can tune it to itself. I can play it with a bow. It has all these really nice overtones. I can play it percussively. You have to hear it in the group setting. It's actually quite interesting. But and if that weren't enough, I had to put this little tiny. So a little word about this. It's like a music box thing, but it comes with its own ribbon. You could create whatever song you want. You could do it. You could punch in the holes and play Happy Birthday on this little thing. I didn't like that. I just punched in a bunch of holes to see what kind of randomly came out of it. So with that, it just so I can play it with that. I can play it with bars. Two bars. So rather than playing it like a lap steel, I would normally approach it like this. I've made it so the strings are fanned out. So I can't play it with a straight bar. No fixed scale. So the strings aren't going to relate to each other at all in a pleasing way immediately. They may eventually, but not immediately. And yeah. Oh, and a heavy string, thin string, and a heavy string. So it's totally outside of what I would be able to play. You know, it presents itself differently every time. So sometimes I play it with a bar. sometimes with 2 bars. So yeah, it's probably enough of that. But yeah, it's just a really fun thing to explore, and it is a kind of a noise band. But I'll tell you, sometimes the noises that we create become either really aggressive and ugly, or sometimes they become really melodic and beautiful, but only by chance. We don't go in. As a matter of fact, um, yeah, none of us have studied music. Let's just put it that way. We played music and we've been musical, but we've never studied music. But anyhow, so it ends up becoming that where we react to each other. And I put it through loopers and I put it through echoes and stuff like that, just to get different sounds. So yeah, and I guess yeah. So I'm just gonna put that. I was gonna play that for a while, but we're already running out of time. Excuse me. So I thought maybe the last thing I might talk about is some of the projects I have on the go. I had slides, but I can't seem to get my slide thing working here, and it's okay. Unless you can. No, you can't do it on that because you don't have my desktop. So current projects that I have on the go, Los Gringos Salvajes is we're just finishing up a recording, which I'm really proud of. And as far as painting, I've got an ongoing abstract figurative series that is showing at Noon Powell Fine Art in the UK, art galleries, Artworks BC in Vancouver, and Bugera Lamb in Edmonton. But yeah, it's abstract figurative, and it's kind of putting. I wish I could show you the slides right now, but it's.
You could just try
Oh,
sharing your screen again if you want, Mark, and
say that again.
try sharing your screen again.
Yeah, I think it's. As a matter of fact, I just lost you there, so I have to reduce that.
Oh,
It's. I'm pulling up the wrong thing. That's all. So sorry. Um, but yeah, the abstract figurative stuff is really very abstract and but using human form to inform the abstract work. Um, there's nothing that's really definitive in those pieces. You don't really see necessarily a figure. It's more about using those forms to and abstracting them. And yeah, I'll see if I can pull them up here as we get into the Q&A. But should we get into that, you think, Victoria? Or?
I think so. Yeah, if the time feels right, we can open it up for folks if they have any questions. You can feel free to hop on and interject, or if you're more comfortable in the chat bar, you're welcome to type in the chat bar. I think Lana wants to say a few words. Thanks for joining us, Lana.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for giving this talk. It's been really interesting, Mark. I enjoyed your talk and I loved your show at the Vernon Public Art
Oh,
Gallery.
cool. Thank you.
Yeah, it really resonated with me. And so I was excited when Victoria said you were doing this artist talk via Zoom. So this is great. And, I did notice, I'm curious to say, I'm going to go online and find those galleries where your new shows are at that incorporate the body. But, the one at the Vernon Public Art Gallery, you can see some body shapes, right? Eventually. So, I have so many questions for you. I'm just wondering, so on those big canvases, what do you use to draw the bodies?
There's a couple things. I use what's it called, Inktense. If you've never used Inktense blocks,
Yes.
I love them. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, and they really react. Like if you wet the canvas first, then draw into it.
Yeah. Okay.
Or I used a mister and then I let it just kind of run.
Yeah. Oh, what a great idea. Because I usually use charcoal, and it can be great, but it can also, if you don't want it to smudge too much, it's hard. Can be anyway. I will try the Intense. I never even thought of using
There's
those.
some charcoal in there too. I think I've figured this out. I did figure it out. Look at that. Although what's happening, Victoria,
Oh
maybe
yeah.
you can see what's happening. I can't scroll because your windows, Victoria, you're right where my arrow should be. So how do I move this?
Oh,
Oh, there
try
you go. I just
using.
did it.
Oh, okay. You can also try using your arrow keys on your keyboard. That'll sometimes flip through them too.
Okay, there you go. There's cave painting. I was going to talk about there's some of the, this is a darker piece. This, you can see that? Yes?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's called Carne, and it's for that kind of my Argentinian band that I'm playing with. It's some of the visuals we're going to use that. It's funny. I wanted to talk about that actually. I was before I go on, and the idea of this piece to me is that at any given time we are compost and we are beautiful miracles at the same time, and I think that speaks to humility and all that stuff. But anyhow, I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that in this piece, and I'm just going to keep scrolling through the which isn't bad or necessarily good. It's just what it is, that's what we are. We're living matter, that beautiful living matter that anyhow. So these are some of the pieces that are in London. This would have been the orange lines would have been acrylic paint. Pink lines would be the magenta ink tense block.
Okay.
Yeah. That one's called The Weight of Flesh. I love how when you juxtapose one human figure and just parts of a human figure over another part of the human figure, how these different narratives kind of present themselves, and people will read into it quite differently. And I that's what I love about kind of overlapping these figures, is that it's I try not to consider a narrative at all. Like if you look at the top of this piece, all the three, I think there's four forms there, they all kind of merge. That one just is supposed to show up in London tomorrow. And that's on paper 34 by 45. So this is my new series that I'm working on. And I'm thinking I might show that at the Smithers Art Gallery here in April. That one there is that's Bacchus, and that's very much human figures with abstract, just bringing the two together. And that one was very abstracted background. That's at the gallery. That's 12 feet wide. That one's a mix of RNF oil sticks. That one's oil and acrylic. So acrylic underpainting and RNF oil sticks.
Right.
And I was splashing thinner on this and then just letting it run and then grabbing those squeegees and pulling it around. Yeah.
Wow.
And that's really part of the Populated series too, is just this overlaying of the different marks, I tell you, if you've never worked that size, it's just such a treat to work up to a 12-foot canvas and just really just dance with it, and just play with it.
That one's a triptych, right?
It is, yeah.
So did you have three canvases that you just stuck really close together and painted all at once, or?
Yeah, I did. So
like pre-stretched canvases?
They were pre-stretched canvases, that's right. Yeah. And so the trick to that is I made these wedges on either end of the 12 feet. So I made these wedges that would just wedge against each other and then ultimately wedge the three panels together. You know what I mean? Like, so they were tight together.
You mean the bookends? I mean, Victoria was telling me about how you have that ingenious idea for shipping. How you book style the two canvases together to.
I think
these are totally separate.
That was what you did for cave painting. It got shipped to us, and it was we had to stretch it. It was already stretched, but just open it up like a book. And
That's right.
I thought that was genius.
Yeah, thanks.
That's something different you're talking about.
Yeah, no, this is so if you imagine you've got two wedges that when you put them together, well, I put it like a stop on either end, like maybe 6 inches out, but not 6, maybe 4 inches out from the edge of the 12 feet. So there's a piece of wood that goes down, runs the length, the height of each canvas. And then I've got 2 wedges that when you put them together, they just, I'm not sure how to draw it, but they just wedge the canvas together, because they'll, so if I've got 2 of these, I've learned that from guitar building, that's how I join guitar tops and backs, is by using these wedges. But
I can't see what you're doing.
no, I'm just gonna draw it for you here, and then I'll show you.
But the screen is on your painting, so
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, stop sharing. Yeah. So you missed all those hand gestures and everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, just give me 1 second, I'll draw it up. Painting. So you see that?
Yes.
So I've got, like, the painting is here, just hung on the wall. And over here is a piece of wood that's fastened to the wall as well. And then these 2 opposing wedges, when you push them together, they push out this way.
Oh.
Yeah. So if you just email me, I can do a better drawing for you or whatever.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And I can maybe take a picture of it in my studio if I can get to it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I have so many questions for you. That what was that methyl, whatever you were talking about, to dissolve acrylic?
Yeah. So methyl hydrate is it's a wood alcohol. So you can use rubbing alcohol. I would say check the MSDS on methyl hydrate and use it accordingly. But
So it's dangerous.
I don't think it's hugely dangerous.
Okay.
It's not that much worse than rubbing alcohol, isopropyl.
Yeah.
But I would check it. It's just quicker. The methyl is quicker. You can use rubbing alcohol. It'll work.
Do you use it to remove acrylic paint on your canvases?
Yeah. Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
And you have to let it sit on it for a little bit to soften the acrylic.
Oh, yeah.
Especially with rubbing alcohol, because it's not quite as strong as methyl hydrate.
Okay.
So sometimes I'll have a completed painting and I'll draw on it with just a Japanese, long bristle brush.
Yeah.
And I'll draw on the canvas, let it soak in for a little bit, then take one of those squeegees and just pull it, and you get these really cool marks.
Oh,
really
wow.
cool under marks. Yeah, under painting.
Wow. Interesting. Can I ask you another question?
Yeah.
Who do you like to listen to for music?
Oh, it's all over the place. Yeah, it's everywhere. I've been listening to Nick Cave in the studio lately. There's what's her name? A classical pianist that I love lately. What's her name? Bunta Schiavelli or something. I can't remember. Katia. I can't remember her name, but if you text me, I'm done. I know I'm not saying it right, but text me and I'll be glad. I love it. I listen to it almost daily. When I first got turned on to that recording, I was out when I'd come into the studio, that was the first thing on, blaring. And I just loved her approach to piano and how emotive her playing is. That's the big thing for me. And same thing, there's a classical guitarist that I really love in the studio. There's so many, but it depends on what mood I'm in, I guess.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Anybody else have questions? I could just take up all the rest of your time here.
Yeah, you can text me or call me, whatever, sometime if you want. That's all good.
Okay. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Are you ever going to come to Vernon and teach a course?
I'd love to. Yeah.
That'd be great.
Weekend workshop or something like that. Yeah, I could send if Victoria do it through the gallery or something. I'd be happy to do that. Or I could send you some of the templates I have for some of the courses that I've offered, and then you could just decide what you might, or just get a group of people if the gallery is too busy or whatever, or not in their schedule. Just if you can get a group of people.
Yeah.
If we can get like day rates and travel and accommodations, then I'd be happy to. I love it, actually. I love
Mm,
facilitating workshops. Yeah.
yeah. No, that'd be great. I don't know if I haven't been up to Smithers before, but never know, might come up.
We have a show a workshop December 14th, I think, here in town.
Oh,
If you go to the Smithers Art Gallery workshop, Smithers Art Gallery website and do a search on workshops, you'll see that there's a few that I'm offering over the next month.
okay. I don't know if I can, I know I can't make that one, but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I will look it up and for the future too. How do you remove yourself from the process?
Well, it's those little tricks. It's almost you allow for the surprises and you react to the surprises. And I think the more often you just react to it rather than bring your intention to it and you just react to it, you're suddenly, again, you're not there anymore. So it's not like I don't think there's a switch to finding inspiration. It was a Picasso that said inspiration will find you, but it has to find you working, So it's just a matter of working and then tricking myself, just making little tricks for myself. As a matter of fact, sometimes when I'm painting, I'll start to make a mark and I'll just be like, man, there's that mark. It's up in the top left-hand corner. You're going to go to the gallery now and you're going to see that top left corner is at the same mark. That's where I start. I just go to this default place and I start making that mark there.
Yeah.
And right away I just said, no, I got to do something else. And actually cave painting, it was on the that one was very much I'm going to try and scroll through it here. Very much that just really trying to, you could see that I'm really trying to make different marks. I'm just looking for it here. Here it is. So yeah, so it's a real exploration in the mark making, like
Mm.
it's different than most of the marks I was making, but it was
Mm.
I was coming back from a week away with family, with relatives and stuff. So that it's a very frenetic piece,
Mm-hmm.
but it really does show that I was really trying to play with the mark making. Like if you look in, can you actually see my mouse there moving
Yeah.
around there? Yeah,
Yeah.
like areas like this, I'd be making a mark, and then I would decide, okay, I know where this is going. So then I might press a little harder on the, I would just change my relationship to the thing I'm making a mark with. That's a big thing. Change the relationship to the thing you're making a mark with.
Huh.
Um, use your left hand or whatever, but
Right.
just really try and get out of that routine and allow. So there's short answer, there's no quick and easy way to kind of get to that place, but other than just allowing, inviting it, maybe not inviting it, just allowing it. If it does get to that place, if you know, and I know when I'm inspired and I'm thinking too much, like I'm doing great here and I'm inspired and I'm doing, and then all of a sudden my intention just comes in, because the work starts to become precious somehow, So it's really just getting out of that mindset and just like, just I'm here to just have fun and explore and play. And then wherever it takes me, I'm happy to be taken there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great place to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, great. I will email you about those questions. Thank you. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I've taken up all the question time. I don't know how much longer we get to have here. Zoom is an hour. We're just about there.
But yeah, I'm not sure. Are there more questions, Victoria? Or
None came through in the chat, but Lena, I appreciate it. It's nice to keep the conversation going and having an active dialogue is always a lot of fun at the end of these. So I appreciate it. And yeah, yeah, I think it was a really productive and exciting conversation and always nice to see an artist's studio, a space that they're being creative in. I think that's fun to get that behind the scenes view. You know, so often we walk into a gallery and you just see the work, and then there's so much mystery behind how the work is created. So to be able to unveil a little bit through these Zoom opportunities, I think is exciting.
Cool.
So yeah, we've come to the end of our hour. So I want to say thank you so much. And Mark, do you have anything else you'd like to add to tie things up?
Just maybe direct people towards my website. It's mark@markthibeault.com. Um, and yeah, and I'd be happy to tell people about any future projects or whatever. Please follow me on Instagram. It's Mark T_art. That's my Instagram, Mark T_art.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool. Great. Thank you so much. This will be recorded as well, so we'll pop it up onto our website if you know of anyone who might have missed it and maybe wants to catch it later. It'll be up for future reference. But thanks so much. I'll let everyone get back to their evenings, and it's nice to see you, Mark, and we'll see you again in January.
Cool. Yeah.
All right.
Thanks a lot, Mark.
See
Have
ya.
a
Yeah.
great
Thank you.
evening.
Good to see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.